Hello again. Going to do the CAGED system today. And you probably read about this stuff and maybe even, operate in it somewhat, but it's just a help to be well versed on it. And whenever I see a chord on like a chord chart, there's definitely choices that I am about to make about what form am I going to use, and which is my preferred voicing of it, and where am I about to go from there, and all these things. There's a lot of factors when I'm reading a chord chart. But first of all, let's just start with the CAGED thing, and then I'll do another lesson where that's going to be a bit more relevant. Sorry about that. I had a little rabbit trail there. So it starts with a C, right? And you just do all your chords that spell the word CAGED. C-A-G-E-D, C-A-G-E-D, right? And so let's start with that C chord. And I'm just going to get a little bit closer up on the guitar here. All right, so here's our C chord. Right, C. Now, what comes after the letter C in the word CAGED? Well, if your answer is A, you're correct. So when I say A, right, then I look at what string? The A string, right? And where am I on the A string? I'm right there. So that's where my index is going to go. Then I put a little A form on top of that, right? Right? So there's a C voiced in an A shape. Now, what comes after the letter A in the word CAGED is G. So what string will I look at? I will look at the G string. Where I'm at on the G string is right there. So that's where my bar is going to go. Now this is quite a difficult voicing. No one's lining up going, oh man, I love playing that G form. But this is my bar. Lots of people, they go right there, right? But you have to go 3 frets away. And then a little G form based out of your ring, middle, and pinky. So, what comes after the G form in the word CAGED? What comes after G in the word CAGED? E. So, what string do I look at? I look at the E string, right? And so, that's where I am on the E string, and so I put my bar there, and here comes an E form, right? Right? And lots of people look at this F, and they call that an F form, right? But F doesn't have its own form. It's actually an E form. Right, so I'm back up at this C. Whoops, hi there. So I just did the E form in the CAGED format, right? So what comes after E in CAGED is the letter D. So what string will I look at? The D string, right? And here's where I am. So when you're making these switches, right, you got to make sure that you're right where you were. Lots of guys I've taught, they'll hit the wrong fret, because they're in a hurry, right? Anyway, here's this, and lots of people do a D right there, but that D is going to be 2 frets away. Now, a lot of people also, they want to have a bar here, right? Sure, you can have a bar, right? Or you can be kind of more digitally pointed down, because we don't quite need a bar for this particular form. So, here it comes again. C with the C shape, I look at the A string. C with an A shape, I look at the G string. C with a G shape, I look at the E string. C with an E shape, I look at the D string. C with a D string, or the D shape, sorry about that. So we CAGED C up, and we're going to go ahead and do that with A then. So here's the A form, right? And what comes after A in CAGED is G. So I look at the G string, right? It's right there. That's where my bar is going to be. And I'm going to reach forward and do a G form. Remember, that's 3 frets away. 1, 2, 3 frets away from this bar, which is like our nut, isn't it? Right? So there's our G form. What comes after G in the word CAGED is E. So I look at the E string. And what comes after E in the word CAGED is the letter D, and I look at the D string, and I make sure that I put my finger there, right? And remember, I mentioned lots of people want to scrunch that up because this is quite a hard little bar. Now, what comes after the letter D in CAGED, right? Nothing, or the letter C. And so there's no C string, right? But I just look at where these guys kind of stack up, right? They're stacked up right there, and then look at this guy right here. So I look at that stack, where those guys are stacked up, that's where I bar. And then there was that little D form still, and then you form the rest of a C shape on top of that, right? So we just caged A with an A shape, A with a G shape, A with an E shape, A with a D shape, and A with a C shape. Here's that D shape again. A with a D shape, and I look at where these guys are stacked on top of each other, right? And I go to that fret with my bar. And then I just form a C right on top of that, right? So let's cage the G then. Here's a G. What comes after G is an E shape. What comes after E is a D shape. What comes after D is a C shape. So I look at my bar. I look at where those guys are stacked up. And then I put a C shape on top of that. And what comes after the C shape is an A shape. So I look at my A string. Okay, whoops. All right, I'm getting a little weary from all those bars. Okay, here comes the caging the E chord, E, and then I look at the D string, right? And that's where I put my index, and I reach forward. And what comes after D is the letter C, so I look where that bar is, right? And that's where my bar is, and C shape, and then I look at the A string because it's A shape after that, and then I look at my G string because it's a G shape after that, right? And then one last chord, E, D. So here we go, here's a D, right? And I look at where these guys stack up, right? And that turns into a bar, right? A C shape. And what comes after C is A. What comes after A is G, right? And what comes after G is E, right? Now, what happens is, if you don't, you can look at it, right? Hold on a second, let me get my purty face back into view. So you can look at this, you can even do it, right? But if you don't, really internalize it, right? It's not one of those, oh, I did that. Yeah, I got that, Definitely make sure that it's part of where you're at. It's also a help to memorize the notes on these strings, right? Because if I say I need an A sharp, right? There's A sharp, right? Now I've got a couple of places that I can go. I can either do a G shape or I can do an E shape, right? And based out of that, I can do a D shape, right? So, or I can find A sharp on the A string, right? And then I just make it an A form, right? So knowing your notes, especially on these two strings, is a big help because it opens up the rest of the neck, and I'll do another video showing how that opens up the neck and stuff like that. So until then, work on your cage stuff. See you.